What's up, guys? Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Today's video is going to be on Nock Tuning. And I know, what the heck is Nock Tuning, right? But before we get into that, I did want to do a quick little plug for the InsideOutPrecision.com website. So it's a full line of merchandise, everything from men's and women's apparel, anything from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs, beanies, hats, just all sorts of cool stuff on there. We put a lot of time and effort not only into some of the logos but also into the apparel itself. I personally hate when I buy a shirt that looks cool but is all boxy and thick cotton, or shrinks 3 sizes after the first wash, and logo cracks and all that. So we picked high quality stuff that's still affordable, and hopefully you can get you guys some merch that you look good in, feel good in, and shoot well in. So now that we have that little plug over, let's move into today's subject, which is Nock Tuning. So this was actually kind of an eye-opening experience for me. I've always spine indexed my arrows, and what I mean by that is I've got a little machine where I can roll the arrow on that machine and essentially find the stiff side of the arrow. I then mark that stiff side and always fletch with my odd vein or my cock vein or my up vein, whatever you want to call it, along that mark. Now I'd heard about Nock Tuning, which is basically where you're rotating your nock a little bit at a time. This is with a bare shaft, not a flet shaft, but you're rotating it a little bit at a time until all your arrows are shooting a bullet hole. Now I assumed that because I spine indexed, that essentially what you were doing when you're Nock Tuning is finding that stiff spine. So I always thought, well, since I use the machine to find the spine, I don't need to Nock Tune. So just kind of for an experiment, before I fletched all these new 4mm axis, I decided to shoot them all as a bare shaft through paper, and I was actually shocked at how only 2 of them actually shot a bullet hole when the spine that I had marked was aligned with my nock, or in a vertical position. So what I started to do was every single shaft I would start rotating that nock like 30 degrees at a time, and it's insane to watch how much that tear will change through paper. So kind of my process for this was, first I actually did spine index them all just for a starting point, and I marked the spine, and I aligned the nock with that spine so that spine was sitting vertically, right, in the up position. And I just put a little bit of Sharpie on, see if I can focus on that, come on now. Just a little bit of Sharpie on the back of the nock. That way when I start rotating it, I have an idea as to where, which side of the nock needs to be facing up as I keep turning it. And what's crazy is, so before I made any adjustments on my bow, like the first one I shot was just a little bit tail right. So I turned it 90 degrees and it went tail high right. So I turned it another 90 degrees, it went straight high. Then I turned it another 90 and it went straight low. So then I started doing smaller increments. And I actually got it to where, without having to make any adjustment on my bow, it shot a perfect bullet hole. So then I did that with the next shaft and the next shaft and the next shaft. And eventually I had to make very little adjustment to my rest. I moved my rest maybe about a 64th of an inch towards the riser. And that was just because I kept getting, even my best holes were still just like the tiniest little bit tail right. Now when I was doing this, I did it all back at like 7 or 8 yards. In my experience, it seems like your arrow is kind of at its worst flight at about that distance. So, if I can get a bullet hole at that distance, then I should be good all the way down. So I actually have a couple holes here that I'm going to show you. This is one. So I'm going to hold up on that. So once you find where it's aligned, where it's shooting a bullet hole, like I said, you have the top of the nock marked like that. I take a marker again and I mark just a little ways down the shaft, right in line with the nock there. So that when I'm fletching, I've got a pretty good visual representation on the top and bottom of that vein about how I can fletch right across that. I shoot my odd vein up, as I'm pretty sure like everybody does. So I want to fletch with my odd vein right along that mark. But I want to show you the difference in the holes. And so this is both from this arrow. And one is after I got it tuned, and then I just rotated it 90 degrees for the purpose of this video to show you. And look at the difference here. So let me get my stupid light off here. Okay. So this one, so that was my hole, perfect bullet hole. Then I rotated the Nock 90 degrees to the right, and that's the hole that I shot next. So you can see that's where the point was, that's where the tail was. I mean, that's a solid, like that's my thumbnail that I smashed in the door. But that's, I mean, that's a solid like half-inch tear. And I did nothing to the bow or anything besides rotating that Nock. So you can see how crazy of a difference that is. Now, once I did all that, so I've only fletched like 3 of my shafts. Once I got them all shooting a bullet hole, I fletched those 3 of them. I shot them through paper. Obviously they were shooting a perfect bullet hole. So I started rotating the fletch shafts to see if that would change anything. It didn't. So how important this is, I don't really know. I'm not sure I'm gonna shoot that much more amazing with it. I will tell you though, that at 40 yards earlier, I posted a picture on Instagram, but I had a fletch shaft and a bare shaft that were just about, I don't know, 1.5 inches apart. And that's at 40 yards. Like most people are happy with that at 20, and I was getting that at 40. So in my mind now, I've got, without a doubt, pretty much about the best arrow flight I can get. Now, a lot of this, I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty advanced method of tuning. If you're a newer shooter and your equipment isn't already pretty dialed, I'm not sure this is something I would really mess around with. I'd spend more time just working on your form. It's wild how little of a difference it takes in your form to totally change the tear through paper. I mean, a little bit more face pressure, a little different hand position, any little difference you make has a massive effect on a bare shaft because there's nothing to steer it or to stabilize it. So it just, you know, if I get 1/2 pound more grip pressure on the left side of the grip than the right side from shot to shot, it's gonna throw you left, right, left, right. When I was doing this, I shot each arrow, or each orientation of the arrow, like 2 or 3 times to make sure that I was getting a consistent hole. If it wasn't consistent, you know, I would, like if I had one that, well, let's say I had 2 that were tail right and 1 that was tail high, I would keep shooting until I found a pattern. You know, like on the shots that felt really good, they were all tail right. And then I had 1 or 2 that were, you know, tail high or something like that, or, you know, a little less tail right. And always go with the average. Now, some of this could be in the tune of your bow. Like I said, my bow is already pretty well tuned, so I wasn't playing a whole lot with like top hats or anything like that. If you're starting from scratch, I would recommend shooting a fletch shaft first actually, and getting a bullet hole with a fletch shaft, and then going to the bare shaft stuff and playing around with that. A lot of this is gonna come with, you know, the spine of your arrow and stuff. You know, if I'm getting a tail right or a tail left or tail high or tail low tear that just won't go away no matter what I'm doing with the orientation of the Nock, it's probably a spine issue, or it could just be, you know, you need to go back to the drawing board on tuning your bow. There's a lot of different things it could be, which is why I'm saying this is not something you want to do if you're just a brand new shooter. If you're not getting the same hole over and over and over again in the same orientation, it's because you're doing something different, and this is honestly just a waste of time. But if you're a little more advanced and you have the ability to tune your bow at home, you know, I don't know many shops that are going to take the time to do this. I don't think we would, unless somebody paid us a lot of money to stay after hours and do it. But it's kind of a cool experiment because, like I said, I always assumed that because I marked the spine on all my arrows, that they would all shoot identically through paper, and that was not the case. Only 2 of them did. You know, only 2 of them shot a bullet hole with the spine marked as the machine found it. And this took me like 2 hours this morning. I got here at like 8:30. And I barely finished before we opened at 10. Or sorry, I got here at 7:30, and I barely finished before we opened at 10. So, like I said, who knows, once there's veins on the arrows, I don't know if this really matters. To me, any little advantage I can get is worth it. And it's honestly, for me, it was just kind of a fun experiment to play around with. You know, I'm gonna shoot these arrows for tack. I'm probably gonna shoot them for hunting, honestly. I mean, they're a little bit lighter than I might like. They're only like 455 grains. I usually like something in that 480 range. But tack's gonna have a lot of shots in that like 55 to 80 yard range. And so I want a little better trajectory, you know, something that's going to get to that target quick in the wind, obviously small diameter. I know everybody's going to ask about these tack vanes and what I think of them. I don't know yet. I only have 3 arrows fletched and I've only shot them at 40 yards indoors. So I have no opinion yet. But so far this is like the farthest I've ever gone down the rabbit hole with like arrow tuning. So I'm excited to see the results. I think hopefully all that 2 hour banging my head against the wall was worth it. And yeah, hopefully it shoots great. So if you got any more questions about this, please hit up the comment section below. I will do my best to answer questions on this. Honestly, there's a lot that goes into this in terms of like the Nock tuning portion is easy, but if you've never bear shaft tuned before, there can be a lot of things that go into getting a bullet hole with a bear shaft, and it's a little hard to explain over text, but I'll do my best. So thank you guys for all the support. Head over to InsideOutPrecision.com and get your merch. We got hats, we got shirts, we got all sorts of good stuff. And yeah, like I said, we really appreciate all the support and positive feedback. So remember guys, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle, and I'll see you on the range.